I woke up during surgery. They weren't trying to save me. All right, let's get this started. Incision time, 9:45, a manly voice said loudly, jolting me awake. I felt groggy, and my eyes were kept shut by tape covering my eyelids. I tried to call out for help, but quickly realized I couldn't form any words, or move a single muscle. Was I paralyzed? Had I been in an accident? My mind was too shattered, unable to recall even the simplest information. Prepare the device, part 108, we don't have much time to get it in place, another voice said. A sharp pain shot through the back of my head, immediately followed by warm liquid trickling down my neck. I wanted so desperately to cry out in pain, but I could do nothing but listen to what happened as something dug deeper into my skull. Apply pressure right there, will you? Don't you see the bleed? The first voice said. It's not working. The second responded after a moment. Fine, then cauterize it, the skin flap is already made. The smell of burned flesh filled the air, making me feel sick. Luckily I could feel my stomach had already been completely emptied. I knew I hadn't eaten in quite some time. Then it dawned on me. Surgery, I was in surgery. But, I hadn't fallen asleep, and I couldn't move. The surgeon continued to burn my bleeding flesh, and as the pain intensified, I struggled to think back. All I had was a vague memory of a disease, some sort of cancer growing inside my abdomen. If that was the case, what were they doing inside my head? How's he holding up? One of them asked. His BP and heart rate are a bit high, but he's under for sure. Don't worry, another responded. While I could hear and feel everything they did, I had no means of communication. Perforator drill. They started the drill up, shaking my body as they put it against my skull. The vibrations didn't hurt, but the cracking sound produced as they dug through is one I'll never forget. Did you go too deep? Nah, he's fine. Once the bone was cut through, the pain slowly disappeared. With the brain having no pain receptors itself, I could do nothing but listen to the sickly squishes as they rummaged around inside my head. Is the device charged yet? The surgeon asked. Charged and ready, doctor. I felt a vague sense of pressure as something was pushed deep inside my head. Desperate and terrified, I tried to think about the moments before surgery. I'd gone in for a tumor on my pancreas, and while I'm no anatomy genius, that shouldn't be anywhere near my head. Put the electrodes around the device entry, set it to 650 milliamps. A high-pitched tone was produced as they powered up the device, followed by a violent jolt, and then, darkness. When I finally regained consciousness, I was lying in a hospital bed. A smiling woman stood in front of me. I recognized her as one of the prep nurses, though I hadn't caught her name yet. Everything went great, Mr. Jones, we got it all, she said, ecstatic. What? I responded. It's all right, the drugs might make you a bit woozy, but you'll be good in another hour or so. A doctor I hadn't seen before entered the room, holding a chart and a syringe containing a crimson, but transparent liquid. Good afternoon, Mr. Jones, my name is Ethan, I'm just here to check up on you and finish the treatment. I peeked down at my abdomen, it stung, and was covered in a large band-aid. Does it hurt? He asked. Yeah, quite a bit actually. We'll up the dosage of your pain medication in a moment. But first, let me give you the final part of your treatment. Now, this stuff burns a bit, he said, waving around the syringe. But, even with most of the tumor gone, we've still got to kill off the stragglers, don't want them to fester. As he prepared to inject me with the contents of the syringe, my mind started to clear. The memory of my surgery returned with a blast, and I violently retracted in bed, ripping the fourth line out with me. You drilled into my head, I shouted. What are you talking about? Ethan said, visibly confused. I woke up during surgery, I heard everything the surgeon said, they put something inside my head. Ethan nodded his head in understanding. Mr. Jones, it's fairly normal to experience vivid dreams while under. Some even feel like they're floating around in the room watching the surgery, some just have weird dreams. It's perfectly understandable to mix up fantasy and reality. No, it wasn't a dream, I even felt it, I argued as I reached for the back of my head. There was no wound, hair was still intact and no sign of any sutures. As I said, perfectly normal. I calmed down a bit due to his explanation, and let him reset the fourth and finish the injection. It burned as the liquid entered my veins, searing up my arm and neck. I felt lightheaded. All done, Ethan said, smiling, you should rest now, you'll be here for observation for a few days. You'll be allowed visitors by tomorrow. It had seemed all too real, yet my supposedly incurable cancer had been eradicated, only weeks after categorically being told I would die within 6 months. Even the setup before surgery had been suspicious. Starting from nothing more than a phone call from Mr. Burke, representing a newly founded Artifacts Pharmaceuticals. They were working on a new treatment for terminal cancer patients, he had said. He told me I'd fit the criteria for the treatment, free of charge, seeing as it wasn't FDA approved yet. We set up a quick meeting and he explained the procedure, which would combine surgery and their new chemotherapeutic drug. At the time, my choices were either to die slowly and painfully from cancer, or to die quickly on the operating table. Naturally, being in the last stages of life, I took the gamble, and that's how I ended up miraculously cured, against all odds. The next week came and went. I was discharged with a bottle of pain medication to keep me going while I healed. Yet, I just couldn't shake that horrific nightmare from the day of the surgery. Out of curiosity I looked through the papers I had been given by the company, surprised to find that nowhere in the 50-page long document did they ever mention the name Artifacts Pharmaceuticals, nor the name of any employee. I tried to call the number they'd given me, but it continuously returned a busy signal. Confused, and haunted by the nightmare, I could do nothing but rest, and hope they'd call me back for a checkup. I needed answers. Time went on, and after a month in recovery, which I spent mostly catching up on my favorite TV shows, I was ready to return to work. The first order of business was a meeting with my boss, Daniel Harrison. He had always been good to me, and allowed me all the time off I needed while going through with the treatment. While it wasn't an amazingly well-paid job, I was happy to be there. Benjamin, great to have you back. He basically shouted as I entered the office, embracing me in a rough hug. We then returned to more professional means of greeting each other, and shook hands as went on to talk about my future in the company. I sat myself down in front of the desk when I started hearing a bizarre sound, feedback like static. Though, I couldn't for the life of me figure out its origin. It was just vague, barely audible at first. I tried to ignore it, but Harrison immediately noticed something was off. Are you all right?